Hey Neil.
G'day.
Hello,
Morning.
good morning. You guys noon already?
Yeah.
Oh, we got a few drops of rain this morning. Very unusual.
Us too.
All right, where is? All right, let me share. Okay. All right. Hopefully we get Eric soon. Hi, Nikki. Okay, I think we should probably get started. I hope Eric can join us. But let me just quickly give the antitrust policy notice and the trust of IP's policy on IPR. Um, Let me see, and also see if anyone want to go on high, Mr. Kim. I don't know whether this is your first time, but you're welcome to make an introduction to the group.
Yeah, hello. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you very well.
Yeah, it's my first time to participate in this working group. Now I'm interested in the identities, especially the self-sovereign identities. The At this moment that there are lots of issues in the agent AI uh, area to corporate the identity for the agent AI. So I try to learn the issues about the the kind of areas. That's all.
Great, welcome. And are you? I saw your name with Dong Hui
Dongyi
University.
University. Yes, Dongyi University in South Korea.
Excellent. Well,
Yeah.
welcome.
Yeah.
Welcome. We can do I think in the second bullet item on the agenda, we'll get into at least that, some part of that question. What are the issues and how we may solve them? Before I jump into that, any other suggestions on the agenda itself? So last week we heard the presentation from the lightweight agent standard working group, and so this is the remaining remaining agenda item we were going to cover last week. So we just continue on that. If not, then this first agenda usually is any news, any introductions. I put down on the news. One is this particular link. So I'll be happy to go over some of those. This link is last week. Yeah, I give a presentation to the wallet interoperability special interest group that's in Open Wallet. So as you know, we do the open source implementation of Trust Binding Protocol and also TMCP TA2A in that project. So we give a good presentation to the group. They posted that meeting recording in YouTube, so that's the link right there. And the second bullet item was also, I think, a new thing last week is Google's announcement on agent payment protocol. This is quite interesting. It looks like it's a early stage, so they are going through a roadmap, but this is I think a long-term ambition to have an open source way of doing payment protocol for users to delegate that to a AI agent. So probably today, I myself haven't looked too deep into it, but it will be probably sometime good to have a deep dive on this particular initiative from Google. And that is linked to their A2A protocol as well. So very interesting to follow up. And finally, two events coming up. IAW in the middle of October. And then on the same week, so usually IAW is a Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And on the following Friday, there will be a agentic internet workshop, and that's if you will be attending IW, that will be simply the Friday of the same week, in the same location as well.
Yeah, I
Anyone
think
else?
it's
Go ahead.
fascinating that after 20 years of and 40 events, they said this is the first time they've added a sort of an official after event. And it's sort of legendary. People are always, after 3 days of IW, exhausted. But it just, to me, it's a really clear testament of just how hot agentic AI is. And I'm sort of glad that they are saying, okay, let's bring identity and trust over to that part of it. So anyway, I've signed up. I'm planning on going, and it'll be an even more exhausting week.
More exhausting, yeah. Yeah, so I signed up as well, and we definitely want to see there will be good opportunity really to hopefully a more diverse group that we can all focus on, hey, agents and how agents talk to each other. Okay, any other news to share? Okay, well, the next two, at least, topics are, I think we can potentially combine them. Essentially, this is to Unfortunately, Eric's not here, but we want to consolidate like the working group. What do we want to deliver, and maybe have some roadmap of how different thread of work that's ongoing can conclude. Maybe put a schedule or a plan when we will get this done. So at this moment, I put some notes on the right side, which goes into, I don't know, just capturing um, a questions about different groups in Trust of IP and DIF right now. The three working groups that currently are related on working on AI related issues, and how we want to see ourselves, which portion of what problem we should focus on. And so that's a broad question. And the note I have here, I'm going to go over it. So sort of like a quick review of what actually we've worked on in the past, right? And very quickly, the AI and Human Trust Working Group Charter essentially says we want to work on trust for AI and essentially adding the trust of IPs stack to aspects of AI. And second, in AI for trust, which is leveraging AI functionalities maybe into the work we do here. So very broad. And one of the people who always would ask is like, hey, what is our differentiation? What is our work different from others? And I think one thing we can be keep in mind to me is the question I think the trust of IPs dual stack both on technical side and on the governance side. And on the technical side, I think we go about a layered architecture, right? And so in that layered architecture, for instance, our protocols like a TSP play a foundational role, and this is really to answer like, hey, how do you solve the problem? And this is our core competency of doing that. So that it is one way that we can say, hey, trust technologies or new trust frameworks can help AI in general. And since the beginning of this year, we've been more and more focused on AI agent, and particularly because the agent architecture allows protocols to play more and more important roles. Because so we could, for instance, also work on the provenance of AI data sets, training, etc. Right, that would be in a very different space. We could, if we have enough contribution, we could still work on those. But for this year, most of our current work in all the three the threads are focused on AI agents. And there happen to be also very urgent need for that. So I think we are getting a lot of traction on this work. And so the third bullet here is essentially our approach is rather than designing or working on a new AI agent protocol, which I think we wouldn't necessarily have the background and bandwidth to do it, but we will complement. So this is again very much the overall approach is one is designing a way to run known or successful AI agent protocols run on the framework that we have from Press of IP. And again, TSP is just a shorthand for representing that stack, right? And so that will be one good approach to go. And also, I think the Trust of IP has a whole framework of to talk about, to define what is trust, to talk about them, to reason about it, and to really show how these overall stack is solving the problem and what are those problems. And so that is in itself, I think, a very good contribution we can do. And that is my understanding of Eric's task force focus on trust framework. Do we have a week or date that's already set up for the meeting time of the trust framework?
You mean the trust graph?
No,
Work?
I think Asian Trust Framework Task Force that Eric has been.
No, I don't think there's any date yet.
Not yet. Okay,
I
so
haven't seen anything.
Yeah, can I just, since I think I missed the last meeting, someone just say a little bit more about what that task force is going to try and produce?
so I missed that too. I was on travel. Stephen, Neil, you guys, can you guys cover a little bit for Eric here?
I haven't heard much on that topic. No.
Oh, okay. So he's working on, I don't have the link here, but I think one of the previous meeting, we do have a link, essentially going over how human and agent interact, and then defining the issues involved. And I was hoping, and I don't know for sure, that then we'll actually continue to say, hey, how the trust of IPs, overall approach and the stack would help. So we're also not just defining the problem, but also offering a way to think about how to solve that problem. And that would be my sense of a framework.
Yeah, I would characterize that a little bit as possibly a meta framework or a general framework, because generally, my experience is a governance framework gets adopted by some ecosystem. They can say, okay, in our ecosystem, here's the policies. So I look forward to talking to Eric more, but this feels like it's on the area of sort of general policies / best practices for trust governance or
Yeah.
governance trust among AI agents.
It is
Yeah,
at that
so-
kind of principles level.
Yeah.
And I see you suggesting here that we kind of link in the use cases to kind of test it, but it would have a kind of flow down both into technical requirements and into governance requirements. If you see what I mean. So
Yeah,
it's I'm trying to find a
again,
link actually.
yeah, my understanding would be this would be a document. So it is a framework in that sense. It's a higher level framework rather than, like a software framework, right? Which shows
Yeah,
code
here's
and-
I'll just put in the chat the link to the charter for the task force.
Thank you, thank you. That's the one I don't have at hand. Yes. So if I click into it, it will show up right here. And okay. So here's objective. So yes, so the first line I think is exactly what we're saying. And it's a conceptual framework, so that's good. Risks and benefits. Yeah, so I would say that seems to me is applying the trust of IPs overall approach and to the problem of how do we improve trust for human and agents. And
Yeah, and
there
Steve's
is
just
actually-
posted the link to the draft document that Eric did in the chat.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think one of the unique thing that Eric's been thinking about is these patterns of pre-agent engagement evaluation and all of that. I think that's a very interesting way of doing it. So here are more of the details of the scope. But I think we will need Eric to come back,
Yeah.
um,
Okay. This
give
gives
us
me
a deep dive.
a much better idea of what he has in mind. It's I'll just point out, I suspect this is going to be fascinating, and it's an area of potential heavy overlap with the DIF Trusted AI Agents working group, because they're probably, I mean, it's literally right there in the name, right? So anyway, I just pointed that out because, as you know, that working group is also kicking off. And anyway, yeah, that's all.
Thank you. All right. So we would probably have Eric to give us a more deeper dive. So today we going to, well, the third one is a use case. We've started on working on that. So the use case is a simpler requirement. It's really going through these common patterns again, but we are picking a travel, I think, as a use case, and then go through the interactions and patterns, and then trying to identify where those issues may be. Again, this is going down the path of looking at one particular use case in more detail, and then come up with or identifying those trust-related patterns and issues, and this might be very related to Nikki, your work, that you led us through those because we are now taking a particular persona and thinking about some work in daily life
Yeah.
and
So
trying to
this is
identify.
the workflow, and it's a way of illustrating what's going on under the covers,
Yeah, yeah. So
because you can show before and after, like A to A without TSP, A to
right,
A with TSP, and
yeah,
the kind
yeah,
of, so it's a way of visualizing the work and keeping us honest in terms of it's going to add to real world applications and real world scenarios.
yeah. So there's definitely also overlap on B and C too. So maybe if we're going to schedule a separate date, we could have the two topics together. That would be just a quick thought on how we can organize it. And so I'm going to leave the TMCP one last, and then I think the discussion would be talking about how this is relate to the the decentralized trust group working group and DIF's Trust AI. I think that's what they call it, Trust AI Agent Working Group. Where there's where we may overlap, where may be complementary to each other, and again, the way that I've been thinking about especially for the I can speak to the TMCP and TA2A work, is to focus the work on um, AI agent protocols. We were picking these two as an example, but any AI agent protocol, what the issues may be, and then thinking about how the trust over IPs stack, specifically in this case, the TSP protocol and related, DIDs and transport layers and wallets, etc., would combine to offer a better foundation for trust than what they have today in using the existing web stack. So we have some time. I don't know where should it be dive into just generally how we think about it. Maybe Drummond, you can tell us about like how you think about DTG and this working group may be able to work together.
Well, first of all, we should execute a giant virtual hug and just agree we're all going to sit in the hot tub together for the next 6 months.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure how better to put it.
It'll be very crowded.
Yeah, but that's the fun thing about it, you know, just the right size hot tub.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I can't actually say that without remembering. I just went to high school reunion a couple weeks ago, my 50th, if you're counting, with my high school classmate that has a wood-fired hot tub up on Orcas Island in the San Juan Islands, and it's just exactly big enough for two people. It's pretty tight, and you can literally reach over and stoke the fire when you're in the hot tub. All right. Um, So uh, one of the key things that you know, the decentralized trust graph we hope that it will enable is authenticated delegation to agents, and therefore it provides a way of you know, verifying who is you know, can you trust another agent, and of course drilling all the way down to how much do you need to know, but at least ToIP. Yes. Um, and so you know, I think I'll put it this way. I conceive of it as, you know, the trust graph is providing a digital utility for all the users of AI agents to be able to tie into and use to develop trust in their relationships. I'll add one more thing, which is in the first person project, we're also looking explicitly at enabling anyone who joins a first person network, who gets, you know, becomes part of the trust graph, to then be able to hopefully, you know, as fast as we're able to figure it all out, actually start using from an individual standpoint a personal AI agent, and from a trust community standpoint a community AI agent, in order to just have trust, begin having trusted interactions. And the list of trust tasks, right, from our, you know, trust right perspective is, you know, I don't want to say it's infinite, but I hear a new suggestion every day about, well, that's, you know, what could happen. There's stuff around events, stuff around universities and you know, classes, educational credentials. All of the travel is fantastic, right? And obviously open source. You know, we just had our, and Wenjing, several of you joined us for a fantastic conversation on the Linux kernel. So all of those I see being potentially grounded or using the trust graph to ground the or provide a source of credentials, and most importantly also personas, DIDs, that can be used in order to be, you know, both clear and cryptographically verifiable who is talking to who on behalf of what. That's my spiel. It's about as much. I was up quite late last night, so that's about as much as I can pump out of the brain right now.
And I don't know, do you see, have you joined the diffs working group call, and whether they have a more specific scope on their side?
If you're asking me, I have not yet. I don't think they've had their kickoff. But I also I actually I need to check. I'll look right now and see if they put their kickoff timing in the announcement.
Yeah.
I will look. I will look right this very moment. I got a link to it. All right, checking right now.
Okay, but you know, if not, I guess the
September
monthly.
30th. Sorry. So
Yeah.
it's not until September 30th at 8 o'clock Pacific.
Oh, I see. Okay, so that would be good meeting to be on.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah,
Put that link in the
and again the workshop on IW or after IW. Okay. Well, I do prepare to, so let me see, 9:30 right now. On the first work thread, we are currently working on two things. So one is to write a specification of this, how this could be done, and which will also explain the problems, etc. The second is produce a prototype implementation that this can be actually implemented, demonstrated, and we are thinking about essentially also produce a way so that the TSP use will become convenient or very transparent to MCP or A2A developers. So for instance, if you are currently software developers building your application on MCP and you are facing these security or trust problems, there is a relatively easy path for the developer to adopt um, our solution or TMCP, right? And solve their problem. So this is the overall scope of the project. It's a kind of a well-defined, and so we will be carrying this through potentially, I think, end of this year to produce all of this, and we should have a good demo ready for our November symposium. So I hear let me see. I hear the question of like what are the problems and what we are trying to solve with TMCP and TA2A initiative here. And I do have a short slide deck that I can quickly go over. I don't think I have sort of capture anything here. Oh, Nikki, you have hands up.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I just reflecting on the change in the strap line, we've lost the human. And I realized that this working group is kind of born out of the technical working group. But I'm just wondering if we could be a bit more explicit in the charter that we're going to look at both machine to machine or agent to agent and also agent to human interactions, just to make sure that humans are still kind of in the room. And, obviously the human experience working group is kind of in furlough at the moment. But I am, willing to kind of explore moving forward and understanding if the community wants or needs more of that human experience element in. And I'll use the symposium to, do an open session to kind of unpack what value we can add. But bearing in mind the relationships work and more committed time, I really want to make sure that humans are somewhere in the loop, if not in the absolute, so it just articulating. I've been doing a lot of work on DPI and interoperability with a client in Europe. And I've been looking at something called the iShare Trust Framework, which is all about sharing data across data spaces and things like the minimum interoperability mechanisms. And the use cases they have in there are differentiated between machine to machine and human to machine and so forth. So if we could just put that H2M somewhere in the text, that would be wonderful.
Would I think we are looking for like how we can translate that into a deliverable in the working group. This is definitely potentially the most important question is really how to define that interaction works.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly. So
we're
the
jumping a little
human,
too quick, right? But I would very much do. What would you suggest, like as a working group, how we should be pursuing that?
I'll have a think about it and add something to one of our future discussions. But, obviously that's the only value I can offer by participating here is it's crucial when you, for example, in Eric's model, you do the identity and authorizations and claims associated with that agent, that
Right.
you also follow the chain as to who's the human behind it. And if it's not a human, the organization and, we did in the use case document differentiate between these different types of agent, acting on behalf of a person, or acting on behalf of an organization, um, and the work on relationships showed very much that an industrial IoT implementation is very different from, a personal travel, uh, guide or travel agent. So I'll put some thought to it and put some stuff in Discord, and then we can, I'm kind of in explore mode at the moment. Where can we add value? But I
Right.
feel the gap in trust over IP in terms of human experience, and perhaps the rubber hits the roads here. Maybe the scope for doing what Ecosystem Foundry and governance working groups have done and kind of bringing AI technical view together with human experience. I don't know. I don't want to muddy the waters, and I completely understand and agree that, like, using trust TSP to support A2A, AP2, MCP, these core protocols that are starting to be used is the most urgent requirement and the most obvious alignment. But without those links and relationships, and maybe VCRs or VRCs can help us with this, from first person, build those links with the real world and human beings, in order to obviously mitigate harms and increase value. So I'll put some thought to it.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, the original use case initiative was also trying to dive down in one example and then identify these human,
Yeah, absolutely.
relationships. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's quite easy at the moment. It's like we've hit a vein. We're a mosquito. We've hit a vein of AI. We're like ballooning.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And all the while, it's, how does this impact our jobs? How does this impact traveler experience, or, the way we live, the way we make decisions? If you read some of the research, the language we use and the way we relate to each other. So I just, you know, I I get it. There's a scope, there's an urgency, there's some quick wins, and the human element is nutty, as human experience group didn't really work because well, we need to unpack why. We need to do a retrospective and understand. We all know, and when trust over IP was set up, John in particular wanted human experience to be a key pillar. and we've kind of let him down a bit. And I've been out of action for a year and also, but you know, just reading your charter, I was reminded I need to step up and put the
Yeah.
human back in the room.
And we, for example, as a minimum, we could put this as a regular agenda, so we have more time to discuss it and maybe think about a way how to integrate into our work, so that it's not, you know, not
That
just
would be great.
conceptual.
Like I
Yeah,
say, I'll put some thought to it, and obviously anyone else who's interested in this aspect, and you know, let's make sure, because I think that is part of trust over IP special source.
exactly.
So
You're
that
absolutely
is a
right.
differentiator
Yes,
over and above W3C or DIF or other groups.
absolutely. Thank you for bringing that up. I think that's so we'll continue on this topic, and thank you, Stephen, and being patient.
Yeah, so sort of along the same line as I realize protocols are on the technical stack, but I'm wondering if there's an opportunity for us to inject maybe Eric's trust framework into that protocol. In other words, you can't just have a technical protocol. There has to be governance behind it, and that was the whole, again, the dual stack idea. Maybe this is the opportunity for everybody outside of trust over IP to kind of get it. It's one thing to connect the dots or get the Christmas trees to light up. It's another thing whether you can or should be or allowed to. And I I don't know how to do it. I'm not talking smart contracts. I'm just saying it would be interesting if we found a way to have a hook to maybe this framework or some form of governance where we're at least saying, whether it be human in the middle or what, we're at least saying this is part of the recipe. It's not something you bolt on afterwards. It's integral. So yes, we can write the code to make the two ends talk. So if you're talking TMCP or TA2A, again, it'd be nice if we were found a hook to say there's a soft touch to it, not just the hard coding.
Beautiful, yeah. So there is a concept human in the loop, and in the traditional web sense, that usually means, you know, like we've experienced before, like something pops up and you have to say yes or no, but oftentimes it's very hard for you to say no because this is basically information is
Right. I
not
mean, you have no
available.
choice, right? I mean,
Yeah, you
there's no
don't have many choices, right?
just go yes. But in this case, I'm not thinking so much human in the middle. I'm thinking governance in the middle, right? If
Right,
there
right,
was this
right.
framework or some kind of rules engine behind it saying, yes, I know you can talk to so and so, but are you allowed to, or what is that person able to say or do? Like what could be in the message? I mean, it'd be
Yeah,
nice to just be able to have some form of governance
yeah,
tied into it. I don't
excellent,
know what that
excellent.
would be yet, but it would be nice because I don't think you could have DIDs without governance.
Absolutely. Otherwise, you know, the days are just
It's
another
just
way of
just
keeping
another
data.
mumbo jumbo, right? So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
know how to do it. It would be fun to explore it.
Yes,
And again, that would definitely give us a unique value proposition over all the other groups talking about doing it.
exactly. So I'm feverishly taking some notes, and Neil, you are next. Thanks again for your patience.
Yeah, just Nikki, I just popped something in a private chat to you. If you could send me an email. Yeah, certainly the thing I've been predominantly looking at recently is the DIF Hospitality and Travel Working Group, which is looking at a personal profile. And boy, that personal information is getting extremely personal that you need for travel, including there's medical conditions you may have that require certain supports for travel services. And you get into very quickly is like, okay, are you going to share the medical information with the travel service or just what the supports you need because you have a condition? There are also, so that whole thing talks about personal data exchange and how do we do trusted data exchange from a privacy standpoint? How is that information managed? Because I'm still hearing the world talk about, I'm going to ship you my whole profile. No, you're not. You don't need that. That puts both parties at risk. There is another way to do it, and credit Drummond for it. It's called micro sharing with callback. You're only going to share the information that's needed for a specific, very short period of time to do a specific purpose. And if the third party that you're talking to needs to come back, they come back and they have a token that you give them saying you can come back and ask me about this for the next 3 weeks, which is a very different mechanism for sharing personal information or any sensitive information. And it's one that I think it simplifies the whole data privacy GDPR problem. And it also says, where does personal data sit? It sits in your digital wallet. It doesn't sit on someone else's site. So those are quite radical changes. But I think the SSI and all of the trust frameworks should, and to Nikki's point, how does the human fit? Because one of the things we're discovering in looking at a travel profile is it's a really complex schema. Your grandmother or your Aunt Martha, who's 65 years old, is not going to open this planet of filling that in such a way that AI agents has a clear and unambiguous description of your needs and wants. So, this is a question that's come up many times in that task group. So why don't we just let AI agents figure out your preferences? Because AI agents will all interpret it differently. So unless you've got some, rock solid thing that's reviewable and everybody can exchange in an unambiguous manner, there is a very strong place for structured data. Now, the agent may help you through conversation fill that structure in, and then ask you to review it. But there is certainly that seems to be, and looking at this for some time, that seems to be a trend. So just, to add to the human aspect is, AI working with somebody to build information about a request and refine it and or background information. Because once you've established trust, then you need to have trust during interactions.
Thank you, Neil. And Mitchell.
Hi. Firstly, I'd like to introduce myself. Pleasure to be here. It's a really good group. Mitchell Travers, I guess I was brought here. Drummond invited me. I met him at GDC earlier, and you as well. Hui Chang as well. It was really nice to meet you. I've been working on something recently, and I guess in terms of the organization I'm coming from is the Blockchain Governance Initiative Network. And we're like a multi-stakeholder governance forum. I run the Identity Key Access Management working group. So have done a whole bunch of stuff around access control and the sort of at the moment, we're working on something called privacy pools, which is building association sets for on-chain interactions to have sort of trust built in and privacy built in at the same time between trading. And I think that this is really relevant to AI agents. What this is all going to, and the feedback I guess I'd look for from this group is I'm working on an interface for our next block meeting, which is a governance forum meeting. And I think it's actually a really good place for us to experiment with some of the ideas that have just been mentioned. I think Stephen mentioned is like putting governance in the middle as almost like a multi-human in the loop moment of quality control around trust. Is it possible for me to share my screen? Is that allowed?
I think so. Yeah, you should be able to.
Okay, cool. So this is the interface that I've been working on, just vibe coding Claude at the moment. But you can sort of see here, you have this trust network score. So the purpose of this interface is people who attend the workshop and the conference have 3 types of AI agents that they work with. The first being the archive agent, and that's the institutional memory of that topic. So this working group would have a particular sort of source information that it would go to, so white papers, etc. We then resource that through making contributions. The codex agent converts that to code for people, and also if we are using standards or policy, It acts as this sort of chat interface for how to convert the ideas into the code. And the discourse agent is for distributing that to the community. So it would post on the forum, it would produce a templated document, which is a policy document or something like that. Now, I want to build the trust over IP stuff in here, and as well as the first person credentials. So I've got this like privacy bar here around selective disclosure. I've got this trust network where everyone who has gone through the first person key ceremony to get access to this sort of agentic workforce then has the ability to create credentials or trust saying that I contributed X, depending on what they would like to disclose. Maybe they just want to say I contributed in the same way an academic has citations. I contributed 100 citations to the creation of this AI agent. Perhaps they want to use that to then engage with other working groups where they can cite the context that they provided to this community or to this group. So then that is, to me, an interesting origination where governance acts as the creation of like organic trust networks based on contributions to working groups. And then, of course, there's a whole blockchain angle after this that I'd work on where you can build on-chain attestations for this to then, yeah, get reputation systems on-chain long term. I'm going to stop there. Thoughts, comments? I'm sprinting for a month to try and get this going in an MVP environment to then have all of the regulators and these sorts of people who don't necessarily have access to the technology all the time to have a aha wow moment of interacting with an agent system based on sort of trust over IP technology, etc.
Excellent. How can would you be able to make it a little bigger
Yeah, sorry.
in some way? Ah, nice. Yeah. So, so how's the trust of IP concept being used? I think FPP is one of the component.
Yeah, so the first person credentials is for access to
Right.
contributing to the knowledge store or the RAG of the archive agent. So
Mm-hmm.
you go through the first person credential ceremony to be able to access this interface.
Right.
And then based on the way that the archive agent talks to other people's archive
Mm-hmm.
agent as well as codex agents, that's where the trust over IP sort of transfers of information is used.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. So you would be able to get a sort of a graph of how where from where the information goes to where, right?
Yeah.
Like a
And that graph is based
reconstructed.
on people contributing
Yeah.
information and intellect, as well as like the working group transcripts contributing, and then the ability to create almost like composable identity based on contributions. So you generate this like reputation based on how much you contribute to the creation of these agents, which are for governance activities. Like to be specific, you would fork this interface for a new governance activity. So this one might be focused on in the blockchain ecosystem, travel rule compliance or illicit transaction monitoring. And we would have a whole bunch of people who are in the forensic space, as well as the blockchain analytics space, contribute different heuristics. And because there's sort of privacy built in, they feel a bit more comfortable doing this contribution to open source. And then that builds this sort of knowledge archive base. I'm just conscious of time. I don't want to take up the whole working group's time, so I'll
Yeah,
just
thank you.
sort of pause there.
Yeah, thank you, and you're welcome in the future. Come back and give a longer presentation. But let me maybe jump back to the where am I? Okay, so let me jump back to our agenda. We have one more agenda item, but for this discussion, so I would like one thing we can decide right away would be that for the future meetings, we should have a stand-on agenda on human experience, or I like also the word human agency. So we are trying to figure out what's our role, and what is happening to us, and what we can have more proactively our agency in influencing how this overall system works. Um, so we'll do that as a general topic. And then the goal is again to translate that, come out with ideas so that we could um, uh, relate that into our deliverables. And one of the, like I've been thinking about a little bit on my side on the protocol aspects, right? I've been talking about protocols, but essentially when we design any kind of protocol, there's always a implicit, or sometimes we explicitly state it, like how this protocol ought to be used, or what it's meant to be used. And that is our, in a way, trust framework, or we design it in a way so that a human can be in the loop, or human would be able to express their agency, etc. And so potentially we could do that together rather than purely have a sort of a dry and technical protocol specification. We will put that human aspects into the same spec, so that we're promoting the same thing. We recommend a particular way, how humans should be engaged. Anyway, so that would be a thought to have. But let's continue on this conversation, and also any other related groups that I come up with a list here as well that we should pay attention to, and the related work in the human experience as well, how to integrate this too. We could spend significant time actually go over those ongoing work that other groups are already doing in that aspect. So final thing is the symposium and IW, I guess. So the symposium, we have, what's the date again? It's November, right? November
Yeah, it's 19th and 20th of November.
19 and 20, yeah. And so, we are currently, I think, Carly and Drummond, you guys are asking for proposals on what we do, and the 2 days, first day is for presentation, second day for workshop. I think that's the format, right?
Yes, correct.
So the workshop, that will be the 20th. The presentation would be 19. So I've submitted a presentation on our behalf and a workshop on our behalf too. Not knowing exactly what we want to cover, but I just want to put it out there, and then maybe in the next week or so, we could discuss what we want to present, what should we cover, and what kind of workshop we can do. So one of the idea, of course, is this particular protocol. This is hands-on. You can do programming, etc. For a workshop. But the presentation, well, I think we should cover all aspects of what the working group is doing or plan to do. So please, if you have some ideas, please, put maybe on the Discord channel, and we will be working on the presentation and the workshop in the coming weeks.
That sounds great. I'm glad you submitted those. Thanks for doing that, Wenjing.
Oh, sure. Yeah. There's a lot of very exciting work going on, and we just want to make sure we're well prepared to present them properly. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, excellent. Got to jump to the next call. Thanks very much, everyone.
All right. Just last minute. Anybody have any other topics or anything want to bring up before we close? And I think next Thursday I may not be. I will be in Europe. I may not be able to chair it, but I may be able to call in. Would let me see, Stephen, would
Sure.
you be able to
Yeah.
chair next call?
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. And Nikki, can we continue on our great topic next week?
Yeah, sure. I'll put some thought to it.
Yeah.
And thank you for keeping the door open.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate it, and I hope we can do something that's contributes.
Yeah.
I want to, in my mind, I want to map all these initiatives in some
this
kind of
is
logical view so that we can spot where the gaps are.
Yeah, this is the hardest question, right? Like um, a lot of time this happens without people thinking hard about it. So tech terms to sort of implicitly, a certain way of working got hardened into software, into technical systems, and it will be very hard to change later. But in this case, I think if we put our minds together, we have a chance. And this is the early days.
Yeah, I
We
mean,
have
there's
a
lots
chance.
of ways you can use. The research we did showed there are lots of ways you can use AI agents to inject humans throughout the like software development value chain.
Right.
So we can they can represent persona, and they can represent like parts of nature, and water. Anyway, we're well over time, so I'd definitely put some thought to this, and ensure that we
Yeah. Let's
keep the
continue.
discussion going, and try and understand the landscape.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes. And thank you, Guanhan, for joining us. And thank you, Lindsay. Hope this is useful, and Mitchell. And hopefully we'll see you more often. Thank you.
Bye, guys. Have a great
Thanks, Alan.
weekend.
Bye.